Grab your ticket to the future and explore Gardens of Tomorrow. The Pennsylvania Horticultural Society's globally renowned Philadelphia Flower Show is back March 1st through 9th. Immerse yourself in imaginative floral designs from an international roster of artists. Then learn about the future of gardening at the free Know to Grow speaker series. Shopping and activities for all ages await. Purchase tickets today at phsonline.org. Hello and welcome to another episode of Let's Argue About Plants, the podcast for people who love plants but not always the same ones. Today we are joined by Amanda Thomsen. She's a longtime contributor to Fine Gardening magazine and has been working as a professional horticulturist, landscape designer, project manager for the past 20 plus years. She's also an author of some fabulous gardening books and the owner of Aster Gardens in Lemont, Illinois. Amanda, before we start, can you please tell us where is Lemont, Illinois?
That's a good question. It's in the suburbs of Chicago, but also it's just far enough out there where it kind of feels like a little vacation town and a little bit like an Old West town, like when the Brady Bunch got lost in the Old West town. It's a little bit like that too.
And what is it like gardening in your region? Like, what zone are you?
So we just got bumped up to 6 out here in the suburbs, where Chicago proper was 6 for a while longer. And it was like, I used to joke that I could see zone 6 from my driveway, but I was a zone 5 for a long time. And so we just got bumped up to zone 6, and we have very heavy clay soil. And the weather is really, we've had shorter springs lately, where that time, and I hope I'm just going to run away with it. I'm going to talk, Carol. The spring's gotten so short that I can complain that it's like that time in which I would transplant and move things and put new things in has gotten, like, it's instantly hot in the summer now. Like, we don't have spring anymore.
I think we've been having that too in New England, or it gets really dry for like
when you're expecting
it to rain.
And the time in which I could make myself some free plants by moving this to there. Like, I used to do it lazy style, and now everything requires more babysitting lately.
Yes. I'm very interested to hear more about your garden shop, because I don't think garden shop quite describes what's going on at Aster Gardens. Could you tell us, like, what is this business? How long have you been doing it?
We're starting our 3rd year. The indoor part is houseplants and also weirdly like vintage stuff, pots, clothing, you name it. There's a classroom. Outside we have perennials, some annuals. We teach classes, have parties out there. It's a small, cute downtown, like a little railroad town. And it's a hard drink and hard party in town. So it's fun we have beautiful lights out in the courtyard, and we have a BYOB license to settle into that little courtyard and teach like a hanging basket class and watch people walk by and be super envious of the people taking that class.
Yeah, I bet that's a great way to spread the word of mouth.
It sure is.
Yes,
yeah.
Very cool. And I just saw on Instagram that you placed a large seed order. So I'm guessing people could be like binge buying seeds at your shop.
Yes. We do a lot of seeds. I don't know that the community was 100% ready for me to come in here, but I chose this town. Like, I grew up about 2 towns away, and I always loved this town. And I was like, this is where I'm going to inflict my damage. This is where I'm going to help, whether they like it or not, this town to become super green. And I want them to have me as a resource, and whether they like it or not.
I'm sure they like it.
Some of them do.
I would love to have you in my town. So I think the main gist of this podcast is plant discovery, and the theme I thought would be perfect for you is plants with personality, because like I mean, A, you've got personality, and B, I think the plants that you like also do.
They do. When I'm looking at this list, it's like it all reflects that, like, you know, back in the 90s, I was kind of like I still am kind of a punk person. Like I'm kind of still counterculture with the music and my taste in things. And when I look at this plant list, I'm like, oh, this is a girl who still has issues.
Well, let's hear your first plant. I can't wait.
My first plant, we're going in easy. So this doesn't shout, hey, I'm a girl with issues. But my first plant is Lovage. I love Lovage. One thing I like in a plant is if I can dig like a 2-inch hole and get a 7-inch plant out of it, I think that is excellent return on investment. So I'll buy a Lovage in a little 2 or 3-inch pot, dig a tiny little hole, and you know, within months it's massive. It brings in the pollinators. It's an amazing stir stick for Bloody Marys. I mean, what else do you need?
So this is like an old-timey herb? Is that
it is? It's an old-timey herb.
Yeah.
It tastes like celery. If you cooked celery down to its most unappealing extract, like it's celery extract. But I like it. I think it tastes great. I think that I'm not the only gardener who has people over and does a taste test around the whole yard. Do you do that?
Occasionally, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, taste this. Now taste that. And I'll take them over to the Lovage and I'm like, what do you think of this? And they're like, that is celery? And I'm like, well, no, it's 8.5 feet tall, so it's not celery. But people aren't really aware of what celery looks like. But it's gorgeous. It has these beautiful yellow flowers and, again, massive plant and completely edible. You dry those leaves or even the seeds and make your own. I would say it's a cheater celery salt.
Oh yeah.
Like the whole. I mean, we're celery salt here in Chicago because we need it for our hot dogs. It's like medicine for us.
Is that right? You put celery salt on hot dogs? Okay.
Yes.
Right.
I mean, that is required by law here.
Okay. Or Lovage, perhaps.
Well, I mean, I think we could do Lovage salt and probably get away with not being arrested.
Now that's punk rock.
It's super Chicago, at least.
Okay, so Lovage. Okay, the occupational hazard for me is that I've already got a list of plants and seeds that I need to buy, and it just keeps getting longer. Every podcast, I have a feeling I'm in trouble with this one.
I bet. Well,
okay.
One good thing about me is I'm not a fancy plants person. I don't, I would even go so far as to gently chide people who are fancy plants collectors. My jam in life is doing amazing things with plants that are easily attainable. I don't have any chip in my shoulder. I did when I was young. Like I had to know everything and I had to have everything. And as I've gotten older, I'm like, screw it. We're just going to do amazing things with easily attainable plants, because if you can do something, but not everyone's allowed to have access to it, how great is that? Although I am going to talk about Fernleaf Peonies later on, which is a little bit of a fancy plant.
Right. But Lovage is a nice, like, easy entry plant.
Super. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It
Very
gets a little
good.
weirder from there. Yeah.
It does. All right.
Yeah.
So what's your next one? Is the weirdness continue?
No, I think it's a total easy one. Totally, it's a workhorse, Geranium Roseanne. Now, I mean, you couldn't get easier than that. You couldn't get more attainable. But what a workhorse. She's here. She's for the people. She's going to start blooming in June and not stop until it frosts. And she's not going to require anything from you. You can just give her a little wink and a smile and a nod. Then that's all it takes. I use her like in every job, because it's people who don't know gardening have the expectation that whatever plant they have is going to bloom all summer long. They don't understand. I think one of the most amazing things about gardening personally is that everything is ephemeral, but non-gardeners don't feel that way, right? Like,
right.
That's something you got to kind of learn to love.
Yes, and I think a lot of people, when you say geranium, they're maybe going to picture pelargoniums like their grandmother had, the red
No,
things. This
yeah,
is not
this is
that
a perennial.
geranium.
Yes, perennial
Yes.
geranium. So Roseanne is she's leggy and she's just covered with little blue flowers, ground cover, just like nonstop. She doesn't require any work. I like to give her a little cutback every once in a while, but she doesn't need it. But she does not give up. And hey, neither do I. So I see myself in little Rosanium. Holy cow. That is an opportunity for marketing. Geranium Roseanne.
This is one that I have seen all over the country, California to the East Coast. It does seem to just grow wherever it is planted. I think it has a super wide zone range, quite drought tolerant too, I think. Right?
Yes. And like I was saying, it just gets so hot here. I don't have time to babysit plants the way I used to. And when I'm working for someone else and doing a design for them, I don't want to give them headaches either. Mm-hmm. I want to give them, something that they can come home from work after whatever, commute, whatever day they've had, and they can just enjoy it. And I know that I can count on Roseanne.
Yeah, it's good to have a few plants like that you put them in and you don't have to think about it again.
Yep, absolutely.
And a good way to hook the beginners too, because then they'll be back for more, right?
Agreed. But they'll never find something that's going to cooperate. That she's just so cooperative.
Yes. All right. So I think the next plant on your list, you sent the plant ahead of time, so I'm not reading your mind. But the next one, also quite easy to care about, a little more unexpected. Can you tell us about this?
Yeah, I think I put them in the same order here. Orangium yuccifolium, which is Rattlesnake Master, if that's how you go. And I believe it got that name because they used to think it was like the antidote for rattlesnake bite, which I'm pretty sure it isn't. I would not want anyone to bank on that. I love this plant. It is a takeover. It's a native here in Illinois and probably most places in the U.S. Where I have it planted in my yard, it's not supposed to love fertile soil, but I'm starting to think that where I have it planted has a little more washout than I realize because I've got these plants that are doing well there that typically like terrible soil. So I don't need a soil test. I've got plants that tell me what's going on, and it's spreading everywhere in just the most lovely way. And I've always been really attracted to its architectural shape. It's got silver gray leaves, yuccifolium. The leaves look like a yucca. And the flowers are little silvery white balls at the top of, I would say maybe a 3 to 4 foot plant. And I've always been told that they smell terrible. Have you ever smelled one?
I have this plant and I haven't smelled it. I've never noticed the smell, but I do notice that wasps are the main pollinators, and they like stinky stuff.
Wasps and flies and Now I've never smelled it either, even though I've had lots of opportunities to. But when I'm taking visitors around the tour of the yard and I'm like, taste this, I'm like, hey, go smell that. And then I make them make that face and I'm like, haha, I've never smelled it.
And it gets pretty tall, right? Maybe 4 feet tall. I
have 4 feet when it's blooming, and it really kind of seeds out as a native will do, and it's such a lovely plant in a stand. It's something that you don't want just one of. Although I think one could be lovely, but I'm a maximalist. Go for 30 or 40.
Absolutely. And if you don't start with 30 or 40, eventually you'll get there because it self-seeds, I would say, politely. It's not like a huge number of seedlings, but you'll notice one and go, oh, that's a baby for sure. I didn't plant that one. Yeah.
Yes. I'd say the first couple years politely, and then maybe a little less politely after that.
A little more rampant spreading.
A little more rampant.
Yeah. But that is a great plant. That's one of my favorite. I have a spot that's just terrible soil, and that's Rattlesnake Master Hill for me, and that's
Rattlesnake Master Hill. Yeah. I would visit that. I would get a postcard and say greetings from Rattlesnake Master Hill. I'm over here trying to soothe my rattlesnake bites in a historic way.
I bet a lot lot of people died.
A lot of people died, and then the flies came.
Great for pollinators. Okay. I think your trickier customer, Fernleaf Peony, is up next on the list.
Yeah, and so this is, I would say, considered a rare plant, right? Wouldn't you think?
I think so, more than the others for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So when I first got into plants, 320 years ago, I worked at a garden center out here, and I was like 22 maybe, and I worked with a bunch of women who were in their 40s who knew everything, and they were all like my friends' mom's age, and they were very lovely, and they taught me everything that they knew, and it was wonderful, and it was really I had peers to talk to about these plants, and like I'd say like my pronunciation has dropped off because I'm really kind of just talking to myself these days, where I'm sure, I mean, you're keeping it sharp talking to all kinds of people about this stuff, but it's me and like the 19-year-old guy who works here. So but at the time they would grow, all the people that worked there would grow fernleaf peonies and share. So like eventually you'd get a little piece if you worked there. And I eventually got my little piece, and I just feel so special with it. It's so nice. The way I got it was nice. The memories it gives me when I look at it are nice. The form of it is so nice. The fact that it blooms a little bit before my other peonies is, it reminds me to give a little extra TLC to that area before everything else starts popping off, because once that fernleaf peony is budding up, it is go time.
And this is a long-lived plant, I'm guessing.
Super. Like, it's going to outlive me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And I'm just so proud to have it. And I know that someday, I mean, it's still small. Someday I'll be able to share it. And how wonderful is that? I think they go for $70, $80 a hunk if you tried to buy one. But I would never sell it. I'd only give it to people I really liked.
Yes, that's a special plant. What color are the flowers?
They are I would say, a Revlon cherries in the snow.
Ah, excellent. That's beautiful. Perfect. Wow, excellent. So that's sort of a pass-along plant. I think that one might be a little bit hard to find in nurseries, so...
I agree. I don't know what the story is specifically. It isn't incredibly slow growing. I think it's just, I don't know. I don't know what the deal is, but it is a long-lived plant, so maybe that's just what keeps it under wraps.
Yeah, so make friends with a really good gardener if you want this one, right?
Yes.
Very cool. All right. Ooh, next up on the list, I love this one. What do we have next?
I wrote for number 5, I have Eastern Prickly Pear. Is that what you have for my number 5?
It is.
Okay. So I can remember the first time I saw Eastern Prickly Pear growing here. Actually, it was in Indiana in the dunes. And I was like, oh my God, somebody dropped a cactus here from somewhere else.
Yeah.
And I was like, somebody left their houseplant here. Like, what is happening? Why is this here? And I was like, I don't know, 14, 15, but I was already a plant nerd. And I went and I got my little brown book of plants, and I looked it up, and I was like, oh, it belongs here. And this is plant nerds as kids. If you ever need a reason for a show, like the plants that touched us when we were kids, like that really got us going. This is one of them. It was pre-internet just by a few years, and I needed to figure this out by myself. And since I figured out that it could grow here, I've always had it. And I always put it in the most mean-hearted places, like around my mailbox, or, just places I don't want people to go. I want there to be some punishment. I want to have some say and control over the traffic flow of my yard. And I'm going to do it with Prickly Pear.
Yeah, I lived in Pittsburgh for years in these neighborhoods where like your lawn would be, in square feet, like, 10 square feet. And one of my neighbors had this, and it was to keep the dogs off.
Yeah.
Yeah, it worked.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty mean thing to do to dogs, but I feel like the dogs also have some innate knowledge that this is going to be a miserable experience.
Yes, they just move along. I don't even think they consider it. But,
Yeah.
and, I think you would agree, doesn't look 100% beautiful all year long.
No, but neither do I.
It looks
Yeah.
kind of rough
Yeah.
in winter. Yeah,
I look
so
a little
do
rough
I.
in winter too. Yeah, I was gonna say You're right. It's not always the star of the show, but I've never been as hot on winter interest as others might be, and I've noticed also that the younger people that I help with their yards. And we'll talk about like here's the the foundations of design is we get the height and then we get the color and we get the evergreen and they're like we don't even care about evergreen. It's sad in the winter. I can deal with it. I don't want to spend my time or money on evergreen, which is shocking. But I've kind of always felt that way too.
Yeah, I mean, like, there is something to be said about just being able to forget about your garden for a few months in the winter time. But, I think they consider it to be evergreen. The pads sort of
Yeah,
hang out there
yeah.
all winter. They just look a little sad, but then in the spring they perk up, start growing again, and the flowers, it's like a
Oh,
spiritual experience,
it is. They do.
right?
They look a little deflated right now. They look like someone let the air out of their tires.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just trying to survive. I mean, I think
Yeah.
that in the winter time they close their little pores and they don't let any
Yep.
water out and, just holding tight till spring. Yeah.
So beautiful. And then I don't often get fruit, but when I do, I'll tell you, I'm aware that the fruit is coming along, and then the next day it's gone.
Huh, who's stealing it? Is it people
I
or
don't know. Somebody's risking
varmints?
getting those little glow kids in their tiny little raccoon fingers.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
we do have a
Rabbits, I
possum.
believe.
You think so?
I think rabbits will eat it in the wild, but they know to avoid the spines. I don't know
Huh.
about raccoons though. I think they're they're
We have a
probably learning the
raccoon
hard way.
street gang and a possum named Alfredo. So they usually are on the scene whenever there's something to be eaten.
Possum Alfredo, that's adorable. Oh my gosh, I can't stand it.
He's kind of cute, except when he's in the hen house and he won't let them in.
Oh, oh my, yes.
Yeah.
Naughty Alfredo.
Naughty Alfredo.
Wow, cool. Okay, this is quite a plant list so far, I must say. And
I aim to please.
but wait, there's more.
So
I
next
think
I have Rusty Foxglove.
yeah.
And I do a lot of design. And I know that there's a large population of women who want this fairy tale garden. And not they aren't thinking of fairy tale gardens in that like fairy tales always have a dark side. There's always like some evil that balances out the good, but they always want the big pink foxglove, and we really can't grow it here. But they sell it in big box stores like crazy. And it's like one of those things, like a rite of passage in the spring, where someone buys the big pink foxglove and they put it in their garden and they never see it again. So when someone comes to me and they're like, "I really want a foxglove," I'm like, "But look at here," and they go, "Oh." And I'm like, "What do you mean? Oh, this plant is majestic. It's gorgeous. It's easy. It reseeds. She does this. She does that. She does it all." But they are like, that color. Like you're wrong. You're wrong. That color is awesome. For such an easy plant, it's a trade-off. Just because it doesn't come in pink and look kind of like a fairy tale, it's a cool plant.
So
Do you have
is
it?
it called? It's rusty foxglove.
Yeah,
How
rusty
would
foxglove.
how would you describe the color?
It flesh with freckles.
All right. Let me just tell the listeners, if you're not watching the video version, we will have photos in the show notes. Go to finegardening.com, click on the podcast tab, and you can see this because, you're gonna want to see the flesh
It's
colored
lovely.
flower with freckles. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean that's not a bad color.
No, I think it's very majestic. Mine they're great in the shade. They can burn a little bit in too much sun. I have mine in shade and then it kind of corkscrews. So I need to obviously find a different kind of shade for it because it doesn't grow straight up and down. But it is like a yellowish peach with great freckles in it. And it is not a child's fairy tale color, but it is very much ain't that life? Like this plant that is gorgeous, that's easy, that reseeds beautifully, that does all these, that's just tough as nails, and it's just not the color you wanted.
Yeah, so is this a biennial like the other foxgloves, or is it a little bit more perennial?
I think it's a little bit more perennial, and to the point where, I mean, I always kind of think of all foxgloves as biennial, but I've had this so long that there's no lapse. Like I just have it.
You're right. So the seed, it makes seedlings, and so
it makes
you have
seeds
generations
like crazy.
starting each year.
Yes.
Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah.
I love those kind of plants.
Oh, it's super cool, and it's super tall, and it's lovely. And I have mine next to a little honey hydrangea, and what a combo. Oh my gosh, peanut butter and jelly. The colors in these two plants, they just work together beautifully.
That's cool. That's cool. And for those that don't know, little honey hydrangea, that's a dwarf oak leaf hydrangea.
Yes,
is that right?
dwarf oak leaf.
And it's got yellow foliage,
bright yellow
yeah.
foliage, and I'd say it's still shin high after 10 years. So, I mean, it could be that I take very poor care of it, but I don't know.
No, I think that's the selling point, because like a lot of people really can't have an oak leaf hydrangea.
Yeah,
but
and she's
that's
yellow.
I mean,
yellow, and she just really kind of, those yellow leaves bring out the more favorable tones in the rusty foxglove.
Very, very cool. Oh, right. So that's a 2-for-1 right there. That's a bonus plant. But what a great idea for a combination.
I love a reseeder. Cool. I don't mind a little mess. I've got a lot of space to fill.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know. I just don't get the mentality of someone's like, oh, I won't plant that because it'll reseed. I'm like, well, that's the whole reason.
That's how you're building. You're building an ecosystem of like. Sometimes the plant doesn't want to go where we want it to go. It wants to go 8 feet to the left. Who are we to say? We're no one to say. No, get back 8 feet to the right.
Right, and then it will. I'm sure. Very cool. All right, rusty phlox, another one to add to my list. I haven't grown that one, but I have seen it. We had it at the Fine Gardening plant sale years ago, and that was a cool. But it was a hard sell because people say, what color are the flowers? And it's definitely
rusty.
Not pink.
They're rusty.
But rusty is a good.
Yeah. Rust is one of my favorite colors, so I'm down with it. Sign me up. I think I have a lot of rust in my garden too. Like I love old rusty items, and it just kind of all pulls together. For the shade garden, come on, it's just perfect.
Mm-hmm. Nice warm.
And that height too that you can't get from, there's not a lot of height in the shade garden, so this is a nice one. It's like 4 to 5 feet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fantastic. All right, excellent. Yeah. Another excellent choice. All right. Oh, the next one I don't know. That you're going to have to tell me more about this one. Allium Forelock.
Allium Forelock it's an autumn bulb allium. So you stick it in the autumn, and it gets to be like, I would say 4 feet easy, maybe 5 feet tall, and it's I would say like maybe about 2 inches round, maybe 3 inches at the most, but it's not perfectly round. It has a mohawk.
Okay. All right.
And with this particular allium, my husband cannot walk past it without tapping it on the head and going, mic check, 1 2, mic check, mic check, 1 2. And it's just it's a plant that is not only great, it's beautiful, it's fun looking, it keeps the critters away, and I have this I'm always going to have this memory of my husband walking up to it and going, check, 1 2, 1 2. And then as my daughter's been growing up, she's been seeing him do it. Now she'll walk out there, and she's 13. She's too cool to do anything. She'll walk up to that allium and tap it and go, check, 1 2. And I'm like, look at that. Imagine that.
Little chip off the old block.
Yeah. It's a great allium if you are a collector, and I am a collector. I'll take all the alliums, and it's a little taller, a little smaller in the flower, and in mass it's fantastic, but if you just have 1 or 2, it makes it great for a mic check.
Very good. And is it that same like lavender purple color that other
it's a little
alliums
darker,
are?
A little darker, a little more punk.
Nice.
With that mohawk. It really, I can't wait for you to show the picture. It really does have a little bump on top, a little extra mohawk.
That is super cool. I mean, just anything that's a different shape.
Yeah. Plants are so cool. And what I love about what we do is that every day there's something else to learn. It keeps you humble.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Like people are sometimes intimidated by the title fine gardening. They think, "Oh, I'm my garden is not fine." It's like, "No, no. Just do a garden. It'll be fine."
Yes,
That's what
absolutely.
it means. Right?
I like that. Do a garden, it'll be fine.
Be
That's
fine.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, there's something to be said for like graduating levels. Like it's fine for everybody to start somewhere, but then you want to know where you can learn more, and that's what fine gardening is for.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's for our people, our type of people.
For your people. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, boy, we're coming down to the end of your plant list. This has been quite a ride. And
Are we doing this bonus round one?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
100%.
Okay. So my last one is Acanthus spinosus, which is Spiny Bear's Breeches. How could you not want something in your yard called Spiny Bear's Breeches? But do you have this one?
I don't. I don't have any acanthus, but I really do want them. So yeah, tell us more.
Okay, so I have mine in the shade, and to not lie to you, I have it. I have rusty foxglove, then I have the little honey, and then on the other side I have this big patch of Spiny Bear's Breeches, and it's gotten to be a big pile of it. Honestly, this thing recedes more than I would think for how weird it looks. I would say, hey, you're kind of weird looking, and I never see you anywhere else. You must not grow very well. And it could not be further from the truth. I have a big patch of this stuff, and I try to give it to everybody who's got a shade garden that can handle a little bit of weird, because these leaves are big and spiky. They are and I can't think of, I'm gonna try to spout this like fact, but I also can't think of the fact. So help me out on this, Carol. The acanthus is the motif on one of the Roman pillars, right?
Corinthian.
Thank you. I was like the Ionic, the Doric, and the acanthus.
Yes, but that's it. That's where we learned that word, right? Was that they, you had to learn it for some test in like 9th grade. It's like, this is the Corinthian
and it's still in there.
And that is an acanthus leaf. Yeah.
It's an acanthus leaf. So it's a motif that people are familiar with. They just aren't, they're like, oh, I didn't know that those ancient Romans actually got it from a real plant. Of course they did.
Yeah.
They didn't just make things up. They probably did just make things up. But, and then it has flowers that I can only describe as bizarre. Like, there's nothing really like these flowers. Like, I guess it could, like an evil penstemon.
But and so is this the flower shape is maybe where the bear's breeches comes from? Does it look like little pants?
Not really.
No. I don't really get the bear's breeches.
I don't either. But they are like the spiny. I get this plant will get you in leaf and in flower. The cut flowers, if you have the heart to do it, will last quite a long time, and they persist after they bloom in mid to late summer. They persist on the plant for a very long time. It's just pleasant on pleasant on pleasant. I don't know why more people wouldn't use it. Of course, I always I like reseeders, and what works for me can be invasive someplace else. But like, wow, this is an underused, underloved, bizarre beauty.
It is, and I think the spines keep rabbits and deer and the like
they keep
away from
everything.
It, correct?
Yeah, everything. Yeah. Alfredo stays away.
Alfredo, and but I don't think it's one of those poisonous plants. Unless
I don't think so either. Yeah. I have it right next to my hen house, and they're all fine. But it's just I think it's the spines, and they have the glossiest, biggest, gorgeous, most gorgeous leaves. That plant always looks healthy. And, the shade garden has gone through a lot of evolutions. There was a tree there, and then the tree died, and we're working on other things. So it's kind of like the tree died. Let's put a hen house there for shade. And the plants that have stuck with it they really deserve to be on this podcast, basically.
Yeah. So am I correct? So it suddenly got a lot more sun, and it was still
Yeah.
okay?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
There
Yeah.
are a lot of shade plants that actually can take a lot of sun, and the reason we think of them as shade plants is because they can tolerate shade, but they don't
Yes.
necessarily need it. So,
Yes, but
yeah.
not so much vice versa.
Right.
You're totally right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay, very cool. So that is 8 plants plus the bonus
Yeah.
plants, and that's
Oh, it's 7
9
plus a bonus.
plants.
Yeah.
That's right. Wow. So quite a list. So what's the next do you sort of put a hold on classes at your store until spring, or do you do them throughout the winter?
So when it's not time to do outdoor classes, we do indoor classes. So we'll do things like a carnivorous bog garden or Marcel the Shell terrarium class. But we also do a lot of wreaths made out of natural things. And our big bread and butter is these things called moss mosaics, where I go and I buy hundreds of frames at thrift stores and garage sales, and we glue moss and botanicals in those frames so that you can hang it in your house. And it has the it feels like there's a plant there when you don't have to take care of it.
Nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
we just do tons of them. It's fun to get people into a creative headspace when maybe they're not that comfortable with it. I like watching people go from really uncomfortable to like kind of blissed out.
Nice. Yeah. So anybody that is in the Lemont, Illinois area, you know where to
Come
go
on
for
down. Yeah.
for your garden bliss.
That's right.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast, Amanda. If anybody wants to see these photos, we'll have them in the show notes, and the full plant list will be in the show notes, and we'll put some links to past articles from Amanda too. So, yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
It's been wonderful. And now, here's Peter to fill us in on where he's been lately. We've missed you, Peter.
Happy February, dear listeners. It's been a minute, as the kids say, since my presence has graced this podcast. The life of a retired gentleman can be quite busy, you know. But I've made my way back from the beach, put down my Mai Tai, and decided to interrupt this fascinating interview with some truly incredible news. Perhaps you've already heard, but my friends at Fine Gardening are hosting an international garden tour in May to, wait for it, England! That's right, the birthplace of the Beatles, Jane Austen, and me, and let's not forget the home of Luton Town Football Club. But all kidding aside, I've been telling Carol and Danielle for years that they simply must travel across the pond to see some of the most inspirational gardens in the world. And I hear that this fine gardening tour is concentrated in the Somerset Hills region, which is, dare I say, stunning. I won't take up too much of your time listing off the details of this amazing trip, but suffice it to say, they're limiting the number of people on the tour to just 35. You'll be mingling with some of the most influential garden designers of all time in their personal gardens that are normally not open to the public. And you'll be staying in the charming city of Bath. Just let me know if you need any pub suggestions. If you want more information, go to finegardening.com and you'll find details about the tour there. The window for signing up is closing soon, which is why I decided to press pause on my tropical getaway and relay this most exciting news. Now, back to the beach. If I could only remember where I put down my drink. Oh, blast.
Okay, I don't know who needs to hear this right now, but after all you've been through, you deserve to go to England. So, just go to finegardening.com, check out this awesome UK tour that we're doing this spring in May, and spring for the single. This is going to be you time. Just splurge, go for it.
Check. Wait. Testing. Is this thing on?